In every corner of Africa, stories breathe, tales buried in dust, whispered through firelight. You're about to hear one of them. Welcome to African Horror Stories. He saw the forbidden mask, now it watches him. Burkina Faso Folklore. In a small village in Burkina Faso, there is a rule every child learns before they are old enough to understand why. When the masks come out, you do not look at them. Not from behind a tree, not through a crack in the wall, not even by accident, because the moment you see it, it sees you too. The elders never called them masks. They never laughed about them, never treated them like tradition for celebration. When they spoke of the masks, their voices lowered, their eyes shifted, as though even saying too much might invite something closer. They said the masks were not made to be worn. They were made to be inhabited. Spirits older than the village, older than the land itself, came when called. Ancestors, yes, but not all of them kind. Some were watchers, some were judges, and some, the elders warned, were simply things that wore the memory of human shape because it was convenient. On certain nights, when the air grew heavy and the wind seemed to stop at the edge of the forest, the drums would begin. Low, steady, unnatural. A rhythm that didn't just echo in the ears, but in the chest, like something knocking from the inside. That was when the doors were shut. Children were pulled indoors, mothers covered windows with cloth. No one lingered outside, no one risked being seen. Because during the ritual, the men who wore the masks were no longer men, and whatever walked in their place did not belong to the living. Issa had heard the stories all his life. He had seen the way his mother's hands trembled when the drums started in the distance. He had watched the older boys pretend not to be afraid, even as they rushed inside before the sun fully disappeared. Fear to a child is a strange thing. It is only real until curiosity becomes stronger. That night, the drums began earlier than usual. The sky was still holding on to the last light of evening when the first beat rolled across the village, slow, heavy, like something waking up. Issa stood at the doorway, watching the horizon darken. "Issa," his mother said sharply. He hesitated. The drums came again, closer, louder. "Issa!" He stepped inside, but his mind didn't follow. Long after the door was closed, after the fire burned low, after his mother's breathing deepened into sleep, Issa lay awake, listening. The drums did not stop. They never stopped during the ritual. They only grew louder, as if whatever they were calling needed guidance, needed a path. Issa sat up. The room felt smaller than usual, the air heavier. He told himself he only wanted to hear better, that he would stay close, that he wouldn't go far. Children are very good at lying to themselves. The door creaked softly as he pushed it open. The night air met him like a warning he chose to ignore. Barefoot, silent, he stepped outside. The village was empty. No voices, no movement, only the distant pulse of drums pulling at him like a thread tied somewhere deep inside his chest. He followed,
past the last huts, past the dry earth paths, toward the edge of the forest where the darkness seemed thicker, heavier, as though it was waiting. The trees stood like silent witnesses. The drums were louder now. Issa slowed, his small body instinctively lowering as he moved between the shadows. The flicker of firelight appeared ahead, dancing between trunks. He crouched behind a tree and peered into the clearing. At first, it looked like movement without meaning, shapes twisting in the firelight, tall figures swaying, stepping, turning in ways that didn't feel human. Their limbs moved with a strange hesitation, like something learning how joints worked. Then he saw them clearly. The masks. They were taller than any man, long wooden faces stretched upward, painted with patterns that seemed to shift in the firelight. The eyes were hollow, black openings that should have been empty. But they didn't feel empty. The figures moved in a circle, the drums guiding every step. Dust rose beneath their feet, mixing with smoke, with shadow, with something else Issa couldn't name. He held his breath, watching. One of the masks stopped. It didn't turn like a person would. It rotated slowly, deliberately, until its face pointed directly toward the trees, toward him. Issa froze. The distance between them felt suddenly small, too small. The drumming continued, but something in the rhythm changed. It slowed, stretched. The mask did not move. It simply faced him. And even from where he hid, he felt it. That awareness, that impossible certainty that the thing behind the mask was not searching. It had already found him. The drumming stopped, all at once. Silence fell so heavily it felt like pressure against his ears. Every figure in the clearing froze. The fire crackled. Nothing else moved. Issa's chest tightened. He didn't breathe. Then one of the masks stepped forward, not in rhythm, not in dance, walking, straight toward the trees, toward him. The moment shattered whatever courage he thought he had. Issa ran. He didn't think, didn't look back. Branches snapped under his feet, tore at his skin, clawed at his arms as he pushed through the darkness.
The drums did not resume. There were no shouts behind him, no footsteps chasing him, only silence. But it was worse than noise, because the silence felt aware. He didn't stop running until the village appeared in front of him, until he reached his home, until he slipped back inside and pressed himself against the door as though it could keep something out. That night, sleep did not come. Issa lay on his mat, eyes open, heart still racing, listening to the quiet. At first, there was nothing. Then he heard it, a sound outside, soft, wood dragging against the ground, slow, deliberate. Issa squeezed his eyes shut. It's nothing, he told himself. Nothing followed him, nothing saw him. The sound came again, closer. He could hear it clearly now, a faint scraping, like something heavy being moved, or something tall adjusting its weight. Then it stopped, right outside the door. Issa's body went completely still. The elders had many rules, but there was one they spoke of less often. If a mask sees you, do not let it see your fear. Do not acknowledge it. Do not open the door.
Issa stared at the ceiling, barely breathing. The door creaked, just slightly, not opening, just shifting, like something on the other side was testing it, learning it. The wood groaned softly, the sound stretching in the silence. Issa turned his head slowly. There was a gap in the wall, a small crack where the wood didn't quite meet. He knew he shouldn't look. Every instinct told him not to, but fear and curiosity are twins. He moved closer, carefully, slowly, and he looked. Outside, standing in the darkness, was the mask. It was taller than the doorway, taller than anything that should have been able to stand there unnoticed. It did not move. It did not breathe. It simply stood, facing the house, waiting. Issa's throat tightened. The hollow eyes stared forward, empty, and yet not empty at all. Then the head tilted, too far, too sharply, at an angle no human neck could hold. And in that moment, Issa understood something he would never forget. The mask was not hollow. There were eyes inside it, not carved, not painted, real, watching him watch it. Issa stumbled back, his breath finally breaking free in a silent gasp. He pressed himself against the wall, shaking, waiting for the door to burst open, for the thing outside to step in, to finish whatever it had started. But nothing happened. No sound, no movement, only silence. Eventually, exhaustion pulled him into a restless sleep. When morning came, the light felt wrong, too normal, too calm. Issa rushed to the door and pulled it open. Nothing. No footprints, no marks, no sign that anything had been there at all. The village moved as it always did. People spoke, children played, the world continued untouched. Issa said nothing. Who would believe him? But something had changed. He stopped laughing, stopped wandering, stopped sleeping deeply. Because every night, just before dawn, when the world is quiet enough to hear things that shouldn't exist, he hears it again. That slow, dragging sound, closer than before, closer than it should be, waiting, learning, patient. And sometimes, just as sleep begins to take him, he feels it, that same awareness from the forest, watching, not outside anymore, but closer, as if the distance between them is shrinking, night by night, step by step, waiting for the moment he finally opens the door.
That's all for today. If you liked the video, let me know by hitting like. And if you're new here, be sure to subscribe for more. You can watch another video of mine right here. See you next time.